we should be live. If you guys can hear me okay. I think the audio is back up. I'll wait my excruciatingly long 20 seconds for a response. Okay, great. Sweet. Looks like we're back. So I was just going to address a couple things before we jump into the homework. Somebody asked about wireless adapters and what I'd use for one of those. Well, I used to use the this wireless Alpha card. Or Alpha USB dongle, I should say. It worked pretty well for a long time. Used it on many different occasions. And I think Hack 5 was selling this particular model for a while. And it did fine. For some reason, though, lately it hasn't been working as well, especially with some of the, like with Raspbian and some of the smaller, or I should say not smaller, but with some of the Raspberry Pi type applications. And then I had some issues with it with a laptop not too long ago. And so I don't know about the Alpha cards anymore. I didn't know if they make them. It's been a while since I've shopped for them. But immediately after these stopped working for some of the Raspberry Pi stuff I was doing, I stopped buying them for class. And the thing that seemed to work really well was this little guy. It's a Wi-Fi adapter you can buy from the people that make the Cana kit. If you go to Amazon, Cana is a Cana kit. It makes all these different packages for Raspberry Pis. And they used to give these little Wi-Fi adapters in some of the packages before Raspberry Pi had the Wi-Fi on board. But I found that it works really well if you are using Kismet or using some other things to do some packet capture and stuff. I don't know. It's a nice little weird dongle. And I think it's like $10 on Amazon or something. So now when I run a class and I need a Wi-Fi adapter for students, like I just buy a bunch of these and give them out. They seem to work pretty good. I know it's not like going to give you any kind of wicked long range or anything, but I've enjoyed using it so far, and it's been fairly flexible and not crashed on me or did any weird stuff. So yeah, weird things for that. But yeah, so there are other people who have other types of Wi-Fi adapters that they like. Alpha is a really good name, like I said, that's been doing it for a while. And I've had some stuff like Wi-Fi adapters that are just embedded. Like I've got a number of student laptops that I bought several years ago. And just the adapter on board, the chipset on board, works phenomenally well, especially with Linux. I had a dual boot system that it would just straight, like I could boot into Linux, it would see it, it would capture Wi-Fi traffic in promiscuous mode. Like I've used it in anger many times, and it worked really well. Just the one that was embedded in the chipset itself. So I don't know, like there's some chipsets that work really good. There's some that just don't, and you just have to play with them. I get some cheap junk too to try off of Amazon, everywhere else. I've got this one that's supposed to be a really good one. It's made by a company, EDUP, I guess. Got that off of Amazon. Total crap. Don't get it. I've got this other one that I picked up from a class that some guy got from some weird like third-party Chinese website. It's called Panda Wireless. And that one worked pretty good. So like I just have all these dongles and crap that I've gotten over time. So it's you know, if you find one that works, like hold on to it, buy a bunch of them and give them to your buddies. Other things to, let's see, I don't think if there are any questions that you had regarding the stuff that we already covered, you can put them in the comments. For you guys who are might be government that are watching, if you go to if you like the content you've seen today, and you want to keep up with availabilities for like classes that I teach the government or something like that. If you go to the website www.skinnyrd.com, and I'm going to reduce my face here. There is a link in the upper right hand corner where you can register. So first name, last name, agency, official email address, that's important. Branch, who you belong to, that kind of stuff. And if who kind of down here in the comment, just kind of give me an idea of who you are and who you belong to, and if you heard about this class from some particular place, tell me where you heard about it. And if you sign up there and register with the site, I can send you emails just about things upcoming like this, or things that are classes you might find relevant. If at any time you don't want to hear anything about any of this, just email me, tell me you don't want to get the newsletter anymore. Also, this gives you, once you register here and I OK you, this gives you access to products. That it opens up a whole different section of the website under references and products and things of things that people who are with the government can get to. So so there's that. And for you guys who aren't government and you're just kind of curious about the different things that we do, I do electronics tutorials and stuff from time to time, so you can scroll through and there's tons of stuff that everybody can get to. If you are with the government, there's a few articles more that you can get to, but like generally there's always a lot of educational material for you to bounce back and forth to. So we will go ahead and get started on some of the homework. Let me bring this up. Cool. So first question here is, so just to kind of frame this up a little bit, it says, people at work have been worried about Bob. He seems to spend a great deal of time in front of his computer, but not like everyone else. While everyone is bouncing from Facebook to YouTube, happily clicking away, all that can be heard from Bob's cubicle is feverish typing. Everyone knows nobody really types at work. Systems administrators decided to take a capture of Bob's network traffic for this exercise. Please open the pcap entitled 002 Shady Bob. So I'm going to do that. Come up, find that out. There we go. Pop that open. All right. Says first, let's see what kind of traffic Bob has been generating. His IP address is 192.168.1.2. System administrators want to know what kind of protocols have been coming from Bob's computer. Find a listing of all protocols that Bob has generated, and in the space below, write whether he has been generating more UDP or TCP traffic. So one thing you can do here, there's a couple ways to go about this, is there's some clues in here. So want to know what kind of protocols have been coming from Bob's computer. So you can say ip.source, ip.src, and equals 192.168.1.2. So that should give us all of the stuff that's coming from Bob's computer. And so it says down here that that kind of eliminated things down to 382 packets. But if we want to know whether there's more TCP or UDP after we've invoked that filter, we can go to protocol hierarchy and look and see there's your UDP, 1.6%, and there's our TCP traffic, which is 97.9%. So in this case, way more TCP traffic than UDP traffic, right? Cool. So so number one mostly would be TCP traffic. So we'll go back and see what it says. It says, what's the difference between TCP and UDP? Now some students, when they answer this with the statistics between like, saying that there's this much UDP, this much TCP. I should probably be a little bit more, accurate with the question there. But what I'm really asking is, what is the difference between TCP and UDP? And in the larger course, we go over that earlier in the course. But UDP traffic is a type of traffic that's kind of fire and forget, right? So examples of that would be like YouTube streaming traffic, right? Like, so for most of you watching this right now, YouTube is just pushing the video to you over a UDP type of a packet. And the reason they're doing that is because UDP doesn't require any sort of handshake or acknowledgement that the traffic actually got to the destination. So if you drop a few frames of the packets that are going from YouTube to you, it's not really going to matter because there are tons of frames of traffic that are running. And Nugget just put there in the comments, fire and forget versus handshake between. And that's exactly right. Your TCP traffic always wants an acknowledgement. We're not going to get into the details here, but there's always this setup to where one computer A will send computer B something, computer B will send something back to computer A that they acknowledge that they got it, and there's always this kind of handshaking going back and forth to make sure that everything got to where it belonged. And you use that anytime you're trying to you have to guarantee that every byte gets to where it's going. So for instance, if you go to a website, let's just say yahoo.com, and they forgot to send you a particular packet, well, if that one particular packet doesn't make it, the rest of the site could completely break for you because it's missing some code there that, if not in line, would just wreck everything else past it. And sometimes we actually see that when we're going to a website and something kind of messes up. And so so that's what TCP is. So you've got some traffic that is, has this handshaking, this back and forth, and some of it this is streaming, right? And so what we're saying is the majority of Bob's traffic is this handshaking kind of back and forth action. It's not like he's listening. It's not like he's streaming out something like a broadcast or something like that. Number 3 says, what UDP protocol was used most often? In the context of the whole capture, what percentage of the traffic was this protocol? And so for this, one thing you have to remember is you have to go back and clear your filter. If you don't clear your filter and you go back to protocol, you go back to protocol hierarchy or statistics there, you're not going to get the right stuff because you have to put this in context of the whole capture, not of the filter that you have engaged up here. So you have to clear this and go to telephony. I'm sorry, go to statistics, go to protocol hierarchy. And what you're going to see is if we look at UDP right there. Oh, and I think I might have, let me go back and do something here. Okay, yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. So yeah, so we go back to UDP and we start to look at what has the most packets that are used under this user datagram protocol part. So we got some NetBIOS traffic here, some SMB, and then your domain name system there, DNS, you have 1.1%. And so I've actually they used to truncate it, looks like. This usually would go out more decimal place than this, 1.12, but yeah, so 1.1%, so that is the most amount of the UDP traffic. That's the highest amount of traffic that we have. And I do appreciate the UDP joke in the comments there. Cool. So we go back up here. It says what TCP protocol was used most often, and in the context of the whole capture, what percentage. So once again, we just got to make sure that we have our filter cleared, go to statistics, go to protocol hierarchy, look at TCP, and look underneath it and see what we've got. And it looks like a lot of the traffic that was under TCP is Telnet traffic. So Telnet traffic is a particular type of protocol that is clear text that allows you to pretty much do clear text console communication with another computer, right? So you can sit and you can log into a computer remotely and you can do anything that you need to do over a text link, I guess you'd say. And all that though is clear text. So if you're looking at it in Wireshark, you can see everything, every command, everything that was sent back to the user that connected. You can see all of that in the clear. So generally, it's not a good thing to use if you're worried about any kind of security and what you're actually doing over that link. But yeah, so we'll close that. So yeah, so the answer to that question would be Telnet, and the percentage is 34.5%. So question number 5. Let's see. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So Telnet is a protocol that was used quite heavily before the World Wide Web. It is still used today by many administrators to control servers remotely, hopefully not too many of them. It looks like Bob might be up to no good. Use Wireshark to display only Telnet protocol packets. How many Telnet packets are in this capture? So there are many different ways we can do this, but if I've just got a clear filter and nothing here, one thing you can try that isn't going to cost anything is just type Telnet. Oh, look, and the display filter goes green. So that works. Hit enter. And if we go down to the bottom, we see the number of displayed Telnet packets are 307. So answer to that one would be 307 packets are captured from that. You can also do this by going to, I'll show you this. If you clear your filter and you go to Statistics and Protocol Hierarchy, you can click on Telnet. And you can see there's a, right here where it says packets, it says 307. If you didn't believe that, you could prepare a filter, selected, and it would just throw Telnet up there for you. And you could do it that way. So in a lot of these questions, there's a lot of different ways to arrive at the same answer, by different means. Okay, so question number 6. If you have a question, feel free to throw it in the comments. If I don't answer it in time, maybe somebody else will. I'm trying to keep an eye on it. So it looks like Bob likes Telnet. What public IP address is Bob communicating with using Telnet? So one of the ways I would do that would be, you could get as complicated as you want. You could just type Telnet and then look for Bob's IP address here. And you'll see it's going to a public IP address. And so, 66.102.151.98. If you don't know the difference between a public and a private IP address range, that is something also that might be worthwhile you looking up and taking a look at, because there are certain ranges that can only be used for the public internet, and there are certain ranges that are only used for private individuals. And you shouldn't find private IP addresses on the public internet, and I would say and vice versa, but sometimes people do some silly stuff and some crazy stuff. But in this case, we can take a look at the private IP address here and then just look at the thing beside it. Another way you can do it, if you want to get more complicated, is you could say, show me all the Telnet traffic that's occurring and the IP. There's an IP address involved of 192.168.1.2, and that'll narrow it down even further. And so now all you're seeing is Telnet traffic that has this IP address in it. And you'll see that it's really only talking to the one. Let's see. Question 7. What port at this IP address is being used for communicating Telnet messages? Some of you have memorized ports and have done that for tests and for different purposes for most of your life, and you just probably rattle off, well, Telnet's port 23. That's just the way it is. And you would be right in this case too, because if you look and you see the destination port for this particular IP address is port 23. So we are reaching out over a port from Bob's reaching out from his box over to this public IP address to Telnet port number 23. Okay, question 8. Telnet would explain all the typing. It is a console-based communications protocol, meaning 1, you can't use a mouse, and 2, you can only type. Let's see the communication stream. Right-click on any one of the Telnet packets and select Follow TCP Stream. So I'll just do that real quick before I go on even further. So I'm just going to do that. So we're going to right-click on this and then go down to Follow TCP Stream. It's going to give me this bucket of stuff. This action strings all of the packets together and lets you see uninterrupted content. It looks like Bob's been visiting a bulletin board system, a BBS, BBSs are like text-based web pages from the 1980s. Synchronet is the type of BBS, but the name of the BBS must be somewhere. What is the name of the BBS? So we can go back to Wireshark here. Go back here and start taking a look. And so it says Synchronet, which is the type of BBS. And keep kind of sorting down through this. And then are you the gatekeeper? Yeah. So if you've been following the comments, you've picked up on the Ghostbusters theme a little bit. And then it's going to ask you, it's like I said, so we're looking for the name of this BBS. And if you keep coming down, it goes Telnet. It gives you this kind of external kind of IP address, and then here, the Wastelands BBS. So that's the name of this bulletin board system. So that's what we were looking for in this. And you can see this is this Telnet session. There's a lot of content here. Some of this stuff is, we'll go over why sometimes you see stuff twice, why sometimes you see just once. You got some other trash that's been thrown in here. This is to help format the data as it's being printed out to the person who's receiving the information. We'll go over a little bit more here in a second what that is. Then says question 9. Right now, you are viewing both sides of the Telnet session at once, but we can see what Bob has been typing by clicking the drop-down bar underneath the text box. You'll see the words entire conversation. When you open the drop-down bar, you'll see an option to show the information that went from Bob's IP address to the BBS. What information did he give away about himself? So if we take a look down here in the bottom left corner, it says entire conversation. Click on it. And then we want to go from Bob's IP address to the public IP address. So when you click on this, you're going to get all the information that went from Bob out. So you click on it, and that kind of simplifies things for us. It shows us some information he put in to start up. Then his name, Bob Evans, bob@yahoo.com, Tampa, the internet, and then some other stuff down here at the bottom. And you'll also find out, like, as I'm clicking back here, the background is changing. So when I click on a particular piece of information, like if I click on Bob Evans, packet 315 highlights. And I could probably go down in here and look at the data and see if I can figure out kind of what kind of got pushed back and forth. But, sorry about that. But as I click, it kind of gives me an idea of where that information is or what packet it went back and forth, like what packet was used to give that information out. So yeah. So that is for this, all the stuff that he gave out about himself. Let's see, that was question 9, I believe. Question 10. All right, this just in, Bob went back online for a second time today. It says, open pcap entitled 003, the return of Bob. The system admins are eager to know what Bob typed this time. What did Bob type during his Telnet session? So if we put it all together, what we've learned so far, we need to close out our TCP stream box. We need to go and open up our other capture, which is the return of Bob, and hit open. And now we have a new set of data. So if we want to know what he typed, we can just go straight to a Telnet packet, right click, go to follow TCP stream. We've got some more stuff here. So we can go to the same thing and just see what Bob typed. And it looks like Bob left us a rude message for the sysadmins. So, oh yeah, and some little emoji art over here on the side. So yeah, so if you got that far through question 10, you did really well. There's one more bonus question though, if you carried on to the last page. It says, before Bob visited the BBS in the pcap entitled Shady Bob, he went to a website to find the address of the BBS. What website did Bob visit before any Telnet activity began? So I'm going to go quiet here for 15 seconds because that's my delay. And write in the comments there what website did Bob go to find this, and also write out how you found that. So if you don't mind, you just type that up real quick and we will go with whatever the first, well, we'll go with whoever got the first right answer there, but go ahead and do that. And I should also add that this is back in the 002 pcap, not the 003 pcap. So I give about 20 more seconds if anybody wants to type in an answer. All right, cool. Doesn't look like I got any replies in the comments there, but that's okay. We will look at this. So one of the things you can do is to take a look at the question here. Oh, we got somebody here. So Telnet BBS guide. Yep, that's right. So Richard Bollard, good job. Yeah, and it is from the HTML traffic. So so let's take a look at this. One of the ways you can do this is, I said it's before the Telnet traffic began, right? So if you wanted to weed out some just by site, you could go down to Telnet and go, okay, well, where's Telnet start? And let me see. All right, so it starts down at packet 200. So it's something before packet number 200, right? So so that's one thing. Yeah, so we had somebody here, Roger, tried to search for DNS. That might work if the computer doesn't already know where it is. If the computer already knows where the website is, there may not be DNS traffic for it, but there could be. But we do know that he went to a website. So one of the things that you can start with is you can start with HTTP and see if that helps, right? And so if you start with HTTP, and say, okay, well, I know he went to a website. Most website is HTTP or HTTPS. If it's HTTPS, which is 443, I'm not going to be able to see the content anyway because it's encrypted. So I'm just going to take a shot and start with HTTP. If you were to do that and you click on any one of these packets, well, I wouldn't say anyone, but the first one at least, where he reaches out to the internet, because these other two are going to be sort of replies. You've got it's going to a host, www.telnetbbsguide.com. So that's a way of doing it. Bill there seems to have a good way of doing it as well. So one of the things you could do is you could look within the frame. So let's see, string, and look for BBS, and well, there you go, Telnet BBS guide there. So that's one way, right? You can look, so remember there was a way you could go and find and look within the packet to look for a particular string. That's one way of doing it. But you also, it looks like you, Wild Bill might have done a frame contains BBS. So yeah, so that might have been actually a display filter there. which would work just as well. The DNS traffic, I am curious myself now to see if there was any DNS that reached out there. And it doesn't really look like, let's see, do we have any DNS traffic that popped out that way? Let's see, open up the queries and stat counter, PayPal, stat counter, PayPal, groups, Yahoo. Yeah. So in this case, the computer already knew where it went, knew where to go. It didn't need the DNS traffic. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, so there are, like I said, there are multiple ways to kind of get to that answer, especially the bonus question answer. There's just different ways. If you want to get really technical with it, you could say, you could bound it and say, all right, well, don't show me anything over 200, over the packet count number 200. Let's pair that up with, anything that is HTTP. So you could get as complicated as you want, but sometimes it's just a matter of, okay, it's a web page. Let's look at HTTP. Just take a shot at it. If it's too much information, then I'll narrow it down even further from there. So yeah, I think that is it as far as the homework goes. If there's any questions, you can feel free to throw those in the comments, and I'll try to address those. But thank you guys for staying with me here for, I guess, a good 2.5 hours doing stuff. Hopefully this was worth your teleworking day. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel. We'll see how many more of these we're able to do before the world gets back to normal. Hopefully we can do some more content, look at some more things. I'm trying to think. Look over my notes here, see if there's anything else I wanted to address. I don't think so, but I'll give it a few seconds there to see if any other questions come up before we launch out of here. The information, if you want to, one thing that might be interesting is to take, so we've got 4 pcaps to look at now. Go back and look at that with Network Miner and see if that's helpful, if that tool would have helped you any more with the Bob exercise there. You might make some connections that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to make. Unfortunately, the question that popped up in the comments, I'm not a good person to ask about entertainment because I don't have a TV. But yeah, you guys are welcome. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can contact me. I am on just about every social media channel that there is: LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. There's either me or a Skinny R&D version of that out there. I think they're also linked to the YouTube channel in the social part there. So as far as more classes to come, I might be doing that. I'm trying to think about what kind of content to do, and what would be interesting. So maybe if you guys have any suggestions, you can leave a comment, or probably even just reach out to me over email or one of the social media outlets. Just get a hold of me, and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, cool. But guys, thanks again for hanging in there with me, and I think I will be signing off here. So you guys have a great weekend, and we'll do this again soon.